Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Welcome to even though we don't have we've got one viewer. Welcome to Carlos and the Chicken, COVID-19 edition.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna take this off, but
Yeah, it is a bit
it is
restrictive.
a bit restrictive. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But for the people that are going to be viewing it on YouTube, we had our special surgical masks on. Now we
Even
have.
even though we are about 450 miles apart.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we are doing our part here with social distancing.
It can
Um,
spread through the airwaves, you know. The elites are keeping that from you.
well, maybe. I mean, really, we're so worried about the virus of the body, right? But we're not worrying about the viruses of the mind, like homosexuality. Um,
Oh, so
okay,
so
we're starting this one off on a high note. But
for
anyway,
sure.
anyway, what are you doing to keep yourself occupied in this time
Well,
of great
I've,
calamity
I've
and crisis?
I'm starting some new hobbies like uh, pornography addiction. Uh,
Whoa, whoa,
I'm
whoa. We'll
making.
we'll save that for the end of the show when all the kids log off, okay? This is a family show, Ewan,
All right, let's see
for
what other more
for our
family
zero
friendly
current viewers.
what other family friendly options do we have? I've also started making prison wine in my bathtub.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's a pretty good hobby to have. I mean, you never know when
Yeah,
that'll come in handy.
probably when I go to prison for the porn addiction.
Well,
Do not take any connotations from that.
oh, we have a viewer question. Let's take a look. Why did I not make it onto College Jeopardy? Well, I did not read, if you're still there. Um, I did not have a television personality, I suppose. They choose a random selection of people um, who get a certain score on the test. They give this selection of people an audition. There's 4 cities, and I was one of the people who got picked out of a hat, essentially. But what they do at these auditions is they don't really pay attention to your score on the test. They care about how bright and peppy and TV friendly one is. And so everyone was walking around, there's one particular person who was at my audition who made it onto the show. You may remember her as being the person in the hijab from Princeton, and she was talking. They ask personal questions. She said, "Well, I have to get in character here, but I run Princeton's only Islamic meme page." Now,
Have you looked up this meme page? Because I kind
I
of want to
haven't
see it.
I haven't looked up this meme page, but the and I don't think I even did it justice. It was just so, and I mean they ate that shit up. These people, the people running the test were telling these horrible jokes. The guy sitting next to me was, you know, I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do to get on TV, but I didn't really, it's not my bag, really. Yeah, she didn't get the Princeton question. That was sad. That was real sad. That was very, very sad. Made me sad. But, I don't think that the guy sitting next to me, because it's not just the audition, they nominally have a second test during the audition process, which is a written test rather than an online test. And but I don't think that figures very much into it. It's just to make sure you didn't cheat on the online test, which is the qualification for the audition. If you do well at the audition personality-wise, but you do so bad on the written test that it looks like you cheated on the online test, they throw you away. But I guess we're talking about Jeopardy now. But
So guys,
where was I? So there, I was taking the written test, and I watched the guy next to me cheat off my test. So I was wondering if, in a perverse sense of, um, I don't even know what he would end up on the show. Which I was looking forward to, actually. I was looking forward to watching this guy who cheated off me get on network television, but it didn't happen. Um,
quite
even
unfortunate, Matt.
even my failure was not extraordinary enough, I guess. I don't know. But yes, the point of the discussion is I wasn't vibrant or peppy enough. That's life. Is this about your audition with Weinstein? Well, I signed a non-disclosure agreement, so we can't talk about that one. Well, we could talk about it mano a mano, but not, on the air. Um, so I guess we should, get back to talking. I don't know why I'm wearing these sunglasses. Get back to talking about the subject
I bet
at
I
hand.
have a worse pair
Subject
for you.
at everyone's hands. What was that?
I have
Oh,
a worse
oh.
pair.
Let's dim the lights. We've got this nice
For
mood lighting
for the
switch.
for the people that are listening to this in the future on YouTube, I'm wearing a pair of sunglasses that make me look kind of like a douchebag.
Yeah, I was wearing, an actual nicer pair of prescription Ray-Bans, whereas Ewan is wearing a
Panama Jack, like
little
$3
league
ripoff.
little league baseball coach type
Yeah,
uh,
that's big.
type getup, which I mean, it has
Somewhere.
its own appeal. Um, so anyway, the old COVID virus. I guess we should. I mean, it's not like anyone cares really. Anyway, what are you drinking out of? In what way is that practical? Please explain to me.
Don't want to pour it into here; it'll spill on my floor.
Well, okay. Um, I don't even know why I asked, to be honest with you. But in any event, so I think that this sort of, when we first talked about talking about coronavirus,
Yeah,
I, I was going to say stuff about how maybe finally the anti-intellectualism of this country is sort of starting to see a downturn, right? Because we're getting this whole thing about Fauci being America's doctor, and all this stuff,
yeah,
and I was thinking to myself, okay, this could be the uh, proverbial silver lining, right? That we will see that scientists are more trustworthy than politicians, and we'll start to take their word over politicians. And maybe then we'll start to see a change on the climate process. We'll start to see a change in our society in general, which is generally, I think, in this country, anti-intellectual.
yeah.
But that all came for naught when when people started going out and protesting that a deadly disease was keeping them from working.
I'm.
What
I,
ex-
I mean, I'm all for the right to death, but
Well, then here's a counterpoint. Here's a
yeah,
counterpoint. Um, in terms of people's rights being taken away, you have Trump's immigration ban. Now,
I saw that. I saw
here's the
that.
thing. The Not the INS, ICE, um, used to be called INS for all you keeping score at home. ICE has basically, Customs and Border Control has basically shut down the border. Nobody's coming in or out.
Yeah,
So there's effectively no reason for an executive order. Now, also to note is an executive order is, legally speaking, constitutionally speaking, kind of on shaky ground, right? Because an executive order is essentially a law, right?
yeah,
I mean, the president's job, of course, is to execute the laws passed by Congress. And so an executive order should, in theory, be an order passed by, signed by the president in order to execute the laws passed by Congress. But in practice, it ends up becoming, well, this law isn't going to get through Congress, or it's going to take too much time. So since nobody's going to bring it through the Supreme Court, I'll do it unconstitutionally. And so there's that, and then but that's nothing new. But more interestingly, I think, is that there's no real end date. If you put an executive order that says no more immigration in the country, you don't have an end date, right? Because there's no end date to this current ongoing crisis. So essentially, you could have a sort of one-time shot immigration. This could be it for immigration for the next however long, if this executive order. I mean, obviously, the wall is not being built, and that was a big part of it. But in general, the policy, if there's really, and I'm being rather aimless right now, but in Britain there's the no gatherings over 2 people, right?
Yeah.
So there's no expiration date to that. So in the future, if they keep that law on the books, they don't have to use it all the time. But if things start to go bad and there's some sort of widespread action for whatever reason, then they can use that law and just crack down and say, that's it. Everybody inside. It's for your own good. This is how totalitarianism starts. If you really want to think about it, except for in this case, I suppose in the case of the 30s, it was a response to real crisis as well. I mean, it's the Great Depression. This time it is a depression, but it's an illness-based depression. And so we may see certain, so I'm not saying that people should be out protesting outside the state capitol saying, you need to rescind this order and let me go back to work, because quite frankly, it's stupid to put yourself at risk. But I do think that any law that prohibits, it's one thing to put a stay-at-home order effective whenever, but to put a law on the books that says you cannot gather.
Yeah. It's a little stepping stone on.
That's it.
On the
and
path.
So now am I saying that Boris Johnson is Hitler? Of course not. I think that's probably an angry Corbyn supporter type point of view, right? Well, he might as well be Hitler, and it was kind of the narrative with Trump. He's got these Hitlerian overtones. At this point, you just throw around the word Hitler when you want to demerit somebody politically. But I do think that in this particular case, it is warranted. The comparison is warranted between, what's the word I'm looking for? The totalitarian regimes of the past with what may or may not be coming. But what I was saying before was I thought that this was going to lead to sort of a political awakening like the 60s had. I thought that this would be the equivalent of Vietnam for us. I thought that this was going to really, we were going to, after this was going to be it for us. Because climate is not something that is now, it's too back burner. And I'm not saying that it should be.
Of time,
but
just writing off as we can deal with it later.
It's easy to push it away because it's not, people aren't dying right now, at least not that you can say definitively.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought that this virus was going to really open up. There's issues in the medical system. There's issues in the economics framework of this country. It was going to open up questions about our government, our bureaucracy. I thought this is really going to shake things up. And now you're getting these people, these reactionary idiots, who are not even protesting what there is to protest. I am acknowledging that there are some very scary things about this, about what government is doing right now. I'm not, but you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face, I think, if that makes sense, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. I mean, because you're not doing anything to keep the law off the books. It's one thing when the virus is over and you say, okay, they've got these laws against us gathering in groups. Before they can really get momentum on it, we're going to gather in a huge group and force them to do something about it.
Yeah.
It's a wholly other thing when you decide that in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, you are going to put yourself at extreme risk for horrible illness and or death. I mean, it doesn't make particular sense to me. I mean, perhaps it's tactical, but it's not at all strategic. I mean, you're not really thinking ahead there, buddy.
Yeah.
But and so now I'm thinking that maybe the only way that this current generation that we can have any sort of real great awakening as a generation is maybe another war. Maybe that's the only way. I'm not saying that I want another war. I'm not saying that I'm not a hawk at all. But
reminds me of some recent exchanges with Iran over gunboats, actually.
That's the thing. Because, when you think about it, Iraq and Afghanistan were not nearly boots on the ground enough in order to get, there were people became sort of disillusioned with it, but it wasn't like there was a draft. It wasn't like, there were still justifiable reasons for being there. I mean, not my personal opinion, but there were reasons why people who supported the wars would say, well, this is why we're still there. And,
yeah.
We remember 9/11. Well, what do you say to that? When somebody says, remember 9/11, that's why we're in Iraq. Well, that doesn't really make much sense because Iraq didn't have it. If we were fighting every country that had anything to do with 9/11, we'd be, well, we'd be fighting Saudi Arabia, and B, we'd be fighting our own government because we funded Al-Qaeda in the 80s. This is what you get for saying we don't like the Soviets, so we're going to give our money and our resources to a group that has very ambiguous intentions. What could go wrong? This is the great story of one of the great stories, because there's a few, of America doing something and getting, biting itself in the ass basically by doing it in terms of foreign policy. But I thought, if I've been thinking actually that if something had happened with Iran, then, well, you would have probably had to have a much bigger ramp up than you had. I mean, there was an incredible amount of enlistment in September, October, November, December 2001, all through 2002. But I think that you'd have to have, they would have to really step up recruitment efforts. You'd get a lot of yee-yees enlisting, because, there are some people who just will take any chance they can get to shoot people. I could be, that guy and say they'll take any chance they can to shoot brown people. I don't know about that. I think they'll shoot anyone, honestly. If you give them a reason to.
Go play Call of Duty.
So, there wouldn't be the moral justification that we had 20 years ago, but I think that we would have needed a much larger effort in Iran. I'm not saying that there would have been a draft, but
Yeah.
it would have been interesting to see how the military would cope with having to get resources together on such a short-term basis. But I do think that the nature of a war that would be fought with Iran would be sort of similar in uselessness to the war in Vietnam. Um, Perhaps not similar in outcome. I don't really know. Uh, but
I
it
mean,
would have.
there are a bit less trees to hide in, you know?
There are less trees, but if Iraq and Afghanistan have proven anything, it is that the nature of warfare now, and I'm not talking about push button warfare,
Yeah.
nuclear warfare. I'm talking about real warfare, man on man warfare. The nature of physical warfare is no longer uniforms and flags and even no longer really aircraft carriers or
Yeah.
tanks. You know, it's in a way very strange that we've sort of come full circle, that what was once probably the most primitive style of engaging in war, the sort of guerrilla style, has become at this point the most effective
Yeah.
for all of our Humvees and Abrams tanks. There's some guy making an IED someplace. How? They don't. He didn't have even a high school education, and he's making a bomb. You know,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
and what does that say? That we're just getting blown.
the last few wars, if
No
anything,
pun intended, but
if the last few wars, if anything, have just proved that the U.S. is not particularly good at asymmetric warfare.
I don't think that the U.S. is particularly good at warfare in general.
I mean, that's a good point. What if the last 10
The
wars that we have been in, if we've been in 10, I don't
the
want to count,
U.S. the U.S.
have we won?
the U.S. fights war by suggestion. It does not fight war with guns. It does not fight war with ships or tanks. It fights wars by suggestion, by saying, we have these aircraft carriers. We have these tanks. We have all these, I wouldn't even call them people, because at a certain point they stop being people. We have all these things that can pull triggers.
Yeah.
And which is not to say that I am disrespecting people who are in the military, but I am saying that they are using you and dehumanizing you in a way that I think is not cool. Let's make that clear. Not saying that if you're in the army, you're a scumbag. I'm saying that you are being taken advantage of. You think that it's good because they're going to give you a college education, but that's if you don't get killed out there. And that's a big if. That is a big if, buddy. I mean, who knows what can happen? And I mean,
Yeah.
you have to sell a little bit of yourself morally, right, in order to get that college education, you know. But if you can accept that, more power to you. I just think that the U.S., when it comes to actual warfare, we've proven that since Korea, I mean, we have not really been particularly good at waging war. Um, Korea was at least a partial victory. Korea, there was a very, very major victory at the beginning, and then sort of an overstretch, and then things got bad. But it was a well fought war, which you can't say about Vietnam.
That's
Vietnam
for
was not
sure.
a well-fought war. I mean, it was masterfully fought by by uh, by North Vietnam and the VC, but it's not like they had to really plan anything. That's what makes it so interesting. Is there's no real strategy there.
I believe we have
You
an
could say, well,
audience question in the chat.
oh dear. Well, I think that they have legitimate concerns about the economy. This is what we were talking about earlier. I think that the protesters have legitimate concerns about the economy and about the role of government, about how much power the government should have. But um, obviously, in these exceptional circumstances, people should not be outside. People should not be gathering in groups. And people who are putting themselves further at risk to engage in protesting that will, in all likelihood, have no real impact on the course of politics right now. To me, it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Do you really want to die to let people open up? You're not just letting yourself possibly die, you're letting a lot of other people die. Just so that, your Dollar General can open up. I mean, I get why people are angry. I understand why people are angry. Obviously, there's a lot to be angry about, but by doing this, you're making it worse. I don't think that these people understand
Certainly
that.
not helping.
Because you're protesting that everything's not open yet, but by taking actions that will make the disease last longer, you're going to either keep things closed for longer, or you're going to cause a second outbreak later on, which will start the whole process all over again, and we'll be back to square one. And so you can't just act on impulse. Just stay inside. File for unemployment. Take your $1,200. Don't spend it on, I don't know, weed. But that's a question that I have. Is the $1,200 thing is how it's not progressive at all. Like for instance, the tax bracket is. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like people in the lower social strata are getting a bigger amount, and the people. Does Jeff Bezos really need $1,200? Does he really? Does he really need $1,200 fucking dollars?
Out near the top end. I forget the exact number. It's like 150,000
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it cuts out.
Do they have a cap? Okay, but still, it's not like
Yeah.
I
It doesn't give any more
I don't
for
know. I
lower
still think that
amounts.
it should be in some
Yeah,
way
it should be
progressive
more.
because $150,000 is still a pretty big income.
Yeah. I mean, it $150,000 you get like $400 instead of the full 1,200, I think.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just my estimation.
Yeah, but if you've got a $150,000 income,
Could go
what is
further,
$400 going to do? If you have a
Very good point.
$150,000 income, what does $400 do? Now, I think that if you have a $150,000 income, you should get $1,200, and if you've got a $10,000 income, you should get, well, as long as we're giving money away. I mean, in Europe, they're basically substituting government handouts for paychecks. And here it's one and done. You get $1,200, make it last.
Yeah. And
I mean,
hope you
a
can
lot of
get
states, they
unemployment.
haven't even seen the beginning of the outbreaks yet.
Yeah.
And everything's closed, and the outbreaks haven't even started yet, and they will come, and they will be. They won't be as bad as New York or Detroit or New Orleans. But they will, obviously every outbreak of a disease is with an infectability rate like this one is going to be significant. And so we haven't even seen a lot of the, why the businesses are closed. The businesses are closed preemptively right now. We haven't gotten to the real thick of it. And so, and you just give them $1,200 and say, that's not going to last, because this is not going to, we didn't reopen on Easter. We're not going to reopen at the 1st of May.
Yeah.
I don't think that it will be open again on the 1st of June either, if you want my honest opinion.
I was actually just going to ask you, like, when do you think this is going to when it's going to start to get out of this?
Well, for me, I think it really depends on whether or not people stay inside, because people start fucking around, right? And governors start just lifting the restrictions, then there will, in all likelihood, be a second outbreak in the fall. Probably September, October, November. I mean, Christmas is canceled if that happens. Christmas might be canceled anyway. I mean, you think that you're having a fucking 4th of July party? No, dude.
Yeah, that's unlikely to happen at
people
this
thought
point.
that they were going to go to church on Easter. No. You're not going on the boat on Memorial Day weekend. Not having a barbecue. Well, I mean, you can have a barbecue for yourself on the 4th of July, but you're not, no parade on the 4th of July.
I mean, it's
but you will have the day off on Labor Day.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of my fears with this is that as it stretches on, more and more people are going to freak out about it and protest against it, and it's going to get worse because I don't know what the human limit of how long they can spend watching Netflix is, but at some point I'm afraid of people starting to, like, now we have a minority of people that are trying to go against the social distancing and the stay at home, but I fear if this number gets bigger, what could happen?
Well, that's an interesting question, and that brings up a point that I just thought of. Obviously, it's a rather small number of people that are actually out protesting, but if they are able to get the bans rescinded, which they might, Richard, they might. I mean, in Georgia, they're basically promising to lift the restrictions.
Yeah.
But it's a rather small, given the population of the states that they're protesting in, it's a pretty small number of people. I mean, it certainly looks significant on television, but it's not like the whole state is protesting. But in any event, what I wonder is, there are all these people staying inside during these protests. There are all these people that are not protesting. But once everything is open, are they going to be able to resist taking advantage of what those protests won for them? Will they be able to say, it's for my own good to stay inside, even though everything outside is open? I don't think so. I think that people are going to start going out to restaurants again. I think people are going to start going to shopping malls again. Well, if people still go to shopping malls, but, strip malls probably. People are going to start doing all the weird, crazy things that they do socially. And, bringing their kids to karate lessons and using public swimming pools and, all the stuff that just creates a breeding ground for disease. Oh dear. Is he there? Oh no. Oh no. Oh dear, we lost Ewan. Oh God. Well, I guess it's just me now until he rejoins. But you know, I don't know. I like I said, I think that there are reasonable enough reasons for the protests. I mean, I think everyone is scared right now. But the protests, even if they will get things open, um, they won't they won't help at all. They're just going to end up leading to another shutdown later on, a whole another song and dance. Um, but let's wait a couple minutes and see if Ewan comes back. Oh, here he is. It's quite nice that I had a little solo segment with Richard.
My phone overheated and turned off its connection. I wasn't aware that was possible, but apparently it is.
It's because of the sheer intellectual warmth that you radiate, Ewan. I mean, I'm sweating myself
Yeah, it's probably
beholding
not
it
the meth
from a
lab
distance.
It's probably not the meth lab underneath my bed
That could
currently.
be it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I guess that's all there is really to say about the COVID epidemic. I do think that it is raising some interesting questions about federal versus state. You know, we may have another civil war over states' rights. You know,
Oh yeah.
shit. But
So, do we have any audience questions? Feel free to leave them in the
does
questions
anyone
section.
here actually believe that the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery? Because if you do, I'm gonna kick your ass. Okay? I don't even care about being diplomatic anymore.
This is
The Civil War wasn't about slavery. It's about states' rights. States' rights to do what? Own slaves? Yeah. So it was about slavery, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Get a fucking grip, dude. Cannot believe. I cannot believe the depths to which some people will dive. Depths of utter mental destitution. I don't even know.
So, what other topics are there?
What other topics can we discuss?
Here's my personal coronavirus woes, other than having to reduce myself to watching Tiger King for entertainment.
Like I said last episode, if you haven't watched the last episode, it's up on YouTube, by the way. Republic Pictures Ltd. On YouTube. As I said in the last episode, I don't think that you should look down upon reality television, Ewan. If you're looking down on reality television, you are not doing yourself any.
I mean,
you may
90
think
Day
that
Fiance is a quality show.
Exactly. I am just waiting for David to find Lana. Have you been watching it?
He still hasn't found her. Oh yeah.
Well, because he belongs on Catfish, not 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah,
which is another excellent reality show. This is my message to all you persons of intellectual hubris out there. If you think that you're doing yourself a favor, whether egotistically or however, by not watching reality television, stop. You're not too good for it. Nobody is too good for it because it represents the true nature of humanity. And as a human, you are not too good for it. And B, it's pure entertainment. What's not to like? Get a grip. Stop being a fucking party pooper. And learn how to enjoy television.
So, what reality TV, other than that, would you suggest to me then?
Well, I watch Tiger King. I may, before we do our dedicated Tiger King episode, I may watch it again. Because
I'm probably going to watch it next week to avoid actually doing my final projects.
Yeah, I mean, it's it is utterly fascinating. But Ozark, I have heard good things about Ozark. Maybe we should watch Ozark.
Perhaps.
We were thinking about doing a Star Wars episode since that is something that we both mutually enjoy and despise
Yeah.
in equal
Yeah,
measure.
yeah, it's
But right now, I guess we're just gonna sit here. Oh, we've got some more viewers. Wonder if they have
yeah.
anything stimulating to ask us.
Well, before that though, I'm just looking forward to the fact that Dreams Park's canceled.
Dreams
I
Park
won't
is
have a
canceled.
I won't have a job. I'm not going to have any income for the
Listen,
next
you
year.
you
We'll be
never
fine.
have had a job, have you?
No, if I was a lifeguard too.
Oh yeah, okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I spent all my money and now I have none left.
Okay, yeah, well, I did that too. I forgot that you ever worked. Uh, for some reason, I had this notion that you just never got a job.
What do you think I am, a freeloader?
I mean, well, anyway,
How
before
else
we
am I?
get it,
How else am I?
uh-oh, it's happening again. Oh dear God.
What is happening?
Oh, you're back now.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Yeah, I never heard what you were saying about how else were you supposed to blank?
How else was I supposed to eat Five Guys every day for college and then gain 900 pounds and then die of diabetes?
Well, see, that would make you extremely susceptible to coronavirus. It's a pre-existing condition. You,
Oh, I see.
you would be able to identify with the people in the African American community who are okay, I'm
Is
going to
that
stop. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop now.
so? Speaking of headlines related to that, did you see that Daily Mail article about that Chinese doctor?
About what Chinese doctor?
The one that a upstanding member of society that I believe was named Nate Miller said was a quote reverse Michael Jackson. His words,
Oh,
not mine.
yes, I did not read the article, but I did in fact see the image. What a fascinating image that was. I mean, it's been done before, but I think this wasn't on purpose. I didn't read the article, so you'll have to enlighten us.
Well, apparently. So he looked. There's no way that I can say this how I can like
He looked
describe
like
his
a
without being racist.
black man, but with still a an
Apparently,
Asian facial structure.
apparently the coronavirus is reported to add additional coloration to your skin due to the liver damage from serious cases.
Is that
But
so?
which now means that an official side effect of coronavirus
Is
is
becoming
getting a
black.
pass.
Is getting, oh dear, this is going to have widespread implications. This is going to have a lot of implications. You know what this means, don't you, Ewan? We're going to be seeing protests all over the world. It's not going to be all business as essential business. It's going to be everyone has the pass. And this may lead to a catastrophic race war.
Between the new and old blacks.
I mean, yeah, exactly, because we're going to return to our roots. Okay, let's get off this discussion. Let's get off this discussion before we say anything else that is so stupid that we're going to get canceled in 20 years. I do not want to be labeled as anything, other than a real stand-up guy.
As soon as one of us gets an actual career, we have to delete the entire channel. It has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be the smart move, but I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, good point. Honestly, if I'm running for president and people see the swimming duel, I'm ended anyway. It doesn't matter of any questionable things. The swimming duel, it's on itself. is one of the worst things ever
It
made,
it might be. Well, I would say that
and
cocinando arriba con chefran
is
is
much
much
worse.
more of
It's
a
much
much
worse.
more of a crime against humanity,
It really
a
is.
creative abortion.
Emma,
Uh,
no, I'm not going to go swim. The pool is closed and has been for a month. I cannot swim.
or to put it in parlance that even Dylan Burns would understand, you cannot swam. Cannot swam
That
is the
is true.
correct tense of that verb. Emma, I do not know you, but you should say swam. Swam.
The
It is
lake
swam. You
is
should go
about six
swam.
degrees outside right now. I'm not going to the lake either.
You got to fight for your right to party, bro. Um,
Everyone
anyway,
wants the
yes,
swimming duel. It's the worst thing ever
the
made,
swimming
and it
duel
has me in
would
it.
kill a political career in about an instant,
I am
which is
actually sexually harassed in that video.
who came up with that idea?
I don't know. I mean, again, also, which incidents of sexual harassment were you referring to by that idea?
Well, I was referring to the post credits one.
Ah, yes, yes. When
I
I
I
have my
think that
chest
was
felt
my
up. Yeah, that
idea,
was.
but I'm not sure. I don't want to attribute anything to myself that wasn't actually mine. I was reading the original script though. That was quite a ride, I have to say. Uh,
The original script that was like 60 pages long, and
okay, it wasn't that long, but it was pretty long. It was about 25 pages long, which generally when you write a script, a page is a minute. So had we filmed the entire script and I still hadn't written the ending of the script. So if
or
I
the
had
middle,
if
for that matter.
if I had actually written the script, it probably would have been about 35 or 40 pages. Now, Swimming Pool as it was about 13 minutes long. So we would have ended up with half halfway to feature length, which I think is pretty
Was
good.
it, was it which, considering that we're trying to do in what was it, a 45 or 50-minute long class period that we had to show
It
it
was
in?
a 40 like 42 minute, I think. 42, I think. Yeah,
Ah,
because
yeah, because of
3 minute
course the
between
school,
yeah.
like every single class period in that school was like 1 minute off from one another, and none of them were ever standardized into one length.
Didn't make much sense, but that's what you get for going to public school, dude. That's why everything should be privatized. ANCAP gang. I
Catholic
can't.
school. Catholic school is where it's at,
All
everybody.
right, you want to talk about Catholic school? We could talk about Catholic
As
school.
I said, Catholic school is the best way to create atheists.
Oh, that's not an original thought on your part.
No, it
That's a
isn't,
long running joke.
but it
That the
is.
how do you
It is
tell how do you tell
true.
someone went to Catholic school? They're an atheist. Um, oh my god! Oh my god! My aunt who went to Catholic school is watching. Well, Aunt Debbie, we were just discussing how the old joke about how you can tell a an atheist they went to Catholic school, or is it the other way around? How do you tell someone went to Catholic school? They're an atheist. I don't really know. I guess it can go either way. But in any
You swing
event,
both
let's
ways,
not
is what
go
you're
down.
saying?
That's a discussion for another time.
Oh,
Or
that,
as
that's
someone
like
once said
on.
to me, as someone once said to me, that's for me to know and you to find out. Um,
Uh,
now, we're not going to get into questions about Catholic school or Catholic anything for that matter, because Carlos and the Chicken is a non-denominational show. The only religion that we're going to hate on is Judaism.
oh, sweet fuck.
Okay, no, just kidding. I'm hoping that our friend, William Zoll Friedman, will in fact watch this program. If he does, I would just like to tell him right now that I love you, buddy. even if you are Jewish. No, because you are Jewish. Not just in spite of you being Jewish, but in fact because you are Jewish. That adds to the allure of your personality. Do you remember when we had to do that thing in English class and I used the menorah?
Yes.
But I couldn't find one to buy, so I had to borrow one from him.
You borrowed his own menorah to give to him?
Yes. I was out the whole night looking for a menorah, and I could not find a menorah.
You mean you didn't just go down to the local Jewish supply store?
Yeah, the Jewish supply store was actually closed. Someone had thrown a brick through the window, and they were closed for the night.
Reopen the economy. We need our Jewish supply store back on.
We need. God, for all those Jewish supply store owners out there, we stand with you.
What would a Jewish supply store sell? How many different types of menorah can you possibly have?
Well, menorahs, dreidel making kits, yarmulkes, make your own yarmulkes, Manischewitz, the wine, and Manischewitz, the whatever the fuck you call those crackers.
Speaking of which, what's your thought on communion wafers? Because I keep trying to buy a box of them just for my own use, but people keep telling me that it's irreverent and not allowed to include communion wafers in
you can buy
demonic sacrifice.
Communion wafers. You're not going to be able to buy communion wafers that have. Well, okay, so obviously this is going to get us into some murky territory because the idea of transubstantiation is contested. Now, well, I can't remember where Luther stood, but, it was a whole it basically led to the split between Luther and Zwingli, or whatever the fuck that guy's name was.
Doesn't really matter.
Transubstantiation is the idea, it exists within Catholicism that when the priest says that Jesus said, "This is my body, which will be given up for you. This is my blood, new in the everlasting covenant." It is not just that the bread and the wine become a metaphorical representation of Jesus' body and blood, but they do in fact become his body and blood. Whereas other Protestant denominations believe that that it's merely a metaphor. So either way, I mean, obviously you aren't going to be able. Some churches they use actual bread. In Catholicism, and I think Episcopalianism, they use the wafers. And I think Episcopalianism is a transubstantiationalist, I suppose, to coin a phrase. But you're not going to be able to buy wafers that have been blessed, that have, as it were, been turned into the body of Jesus Christ. Well, that's a no-go zone, buddy.
Unfortunately, based on the very
unless you can find a priest who either by free will or otherwise will bless these wafers for you for use in whatever ceremony you are planning.
Because I do not
endorse or condone any ceremony of this type. I am not going to put my soul on the line, especially since I think that the rapture is on it. I think coronavirus is the rapture. I mean, I'm just waiting on it. I'm waiting on it at this point. I'm waiting on my test to come back.
Primarily killing African American communities because, in fact, white people,
black people deserve to go to heaven. White people don't. It's a fact of life. It's because black people have rhythm and white people do not. This is why God does not like white people, because white people generally speaking do not have
bad
rhythm.
Taste in music.
White people think that you clap on the 1 and the 3. Black people know that you clap on the 2 and the 4.
And this
I
right
mean,
here is the
that's as
one
simple as it
single
is.
reason
I mean, what more
why.
does God need? I mean, but I know that I clap on the two and the four when I do clap, which is not often. But when I do clap, I clap on the two and the four. So I'm hoping that
Similarly,
soon
when I
my
clap
coronavirus
twos
test.
and fours.
I'm hoping that soon my coronavirus test will come back positive, and finally I will be lifted up to the heavens. But it's not looking like that's going to happen. So I'm going to be subjected to years and years of earthly torment as the end times arrive. But
I
we don't
call being the
choose.
whore of Babylon. You heard it here first.
That does seem oddly fitting. I can see it. You want to know who I think the Antichrist?
Absolutely.
Tom Knight. Tom Knight. I think that Tom Knight is the Antichrist.
You heard it.
The
You
man.
heard it here first, folks.
Remember how
Radical centrism
last time?
is in
Okay,
fact the mark of the beast.
if you did not watch last week's episode of Carlos and the Chicken, check it out on YouTube. Search Carlos and the Chicken or Republic Pictures Ltd. You'll find our channel. You can watch all of our programs on there. But last week we were
Absolutely
discussing
no
lizards.
ads because we
No
mainly have
ads
copyright
because
content.
we have copyright flags, and because our account is not big enough to monetize our own videos. But we were discussing lizards, both biblical and political, and how I think that Tom Knight is, in fact, is my opinion. He he. Oh dear, what is that? All right. Oh, oh man. Well, that's interesting. Anyway, can you stop? Okay, there we go. What was I saying? Oh, the Tom Knight is the Antichrist.
Yes, of course.
Can you find any? Oh, we only have 1 minute 40 seconds remaining. God damn it! Why do they keep doing this to us? Hopefully we can save it this time, since that seemed to be something of an issue the last time.
It only took
once again we are ending
5.5
on
hours.
lizards. We're ending on lizards. Once again, it seems to be a common theme that we end on lizards. Thomas Andrew Lasher Knight is in fact a lizard, a human body. Doesn't he just ooze reptilianism to you? I mean, come on. Have you ever touched his skin? I bet you
I
haven't.
have not.
Because it's probably pretty scaly. Anyway, Thomas Knight, and you can tell him I said this too. What's he going to do about it? Come beat me up in his short shorts? Tom Knight is the Antichrist. That's all we have to say this week. Next week, we'll discuss something else and invariably end up on the subject of lizards. So I guess we'll end it here. I'm going to throw you off, Ewan, and then I'll try and close this out in a way that I can save it. So goodbye, Ewan.
Signing off.
And that's it. See you boys around.